Mayuresh Joshi joins us to finish off things. A day which is, which really belongs to the Bulls. Let's just put it that way. Mayuresh, good afternoon. Great to have you on the show. Your thoughts on the market and more specifically on one stock. I wanted to get your take on Axis Bank. It is one of the best performers on the Nifty. We know the City deal is done. Your thoughts?
Afternoon, Survi. So on the markets, as per the O'Neill lens, we are more on Prashant's side at this point of time. A little bit of caution probably being laid out. I'll give you 2-3 reasons why. One, I think you could probably look at some of the emerging spaces which were in the find uptrend. I'm not talking about the Hang Seng market has done phenomenally well today. But specifically in terms of a market like a Kospi, the Korean index was in a find uptrend and started clutch of distribution days. And suddenly that market is under pressure. Surprisingly, I think the European markets would have held up very, very well. You look at the DAX, you look at the stocks 500. I just put a tweet a couple of days back that it's holding out very, very strongly. And even in the US context, our global strategy research is probably suggesting that the S&P earnings probably bottom out at least a quarter or two before the S&P actually bottoms out. So what I'm trying to say is that maybe in the next couple of quarters, once we get out of this volatility and all the macro data points, with the worst probably being behind us, you might see a bottoming out process starting even for the US markets. Having said that, I think the Indian markets should hold on to those levels of 17,250 that we've probably seen. Holding on to those levels for this week becomes extremely critical, and then probably getting a follow-through day. A few spaces which have had leadership positions in the last few quarters, capital, goods, stroke infra, still holding out very, very well in these markets. A few of the leadership sectors have probably turned a little bit sideways, banking included, which takes me to your question on Axis Bank itself. The relative strength for Axis Bank, the EPS strength is relatively strong. The RS strength probably coming off. But with the City deal coming through, 3 million customers expected, 2.5 million in terms of card holders as well. They're getting top-notch processes probably in place in terms of customer service, customer orientation as well. And on their own numbers as well, what you're probably seeing in terms of asset quality pressures, largely getting behind them at this juncture. NIMs expected to stabilize. Deposit rates are going up for the system as a whole. And therefore, I think the stability of NIMs for the sector is a given for the next few quarters. But loan growth, capital adequacy, provisioning probably remains very strong and expected to improve going forward. So I think the price string probably lays off a tad bit for Axis Bank. So I think wait and watch for Axis Bank at this point of time. But largely, I think banking should start recovering in the next quarter or two, in my opinion, as far as the Indian context is concerned.
Okay, with 3 minutes to close, I think we can safely say that we will have a positive daily close. 8 days of selling worth 900 points on the Nifty, 900 points. And, after that, we get a positive, strong close. So this is something which is certainly interesting. Mayuresh, any thoughts on names like TCS, etc.? I mean, actually, I was looking at the TCS chart also. There is a very steep downward sloping angle. There's a trend line which TCS is exactly at. Maybe it fails to take that out. There's about 33.87 or so. If it takes it out, perhaps there is 5-6% more in terms of an upside. Any thoughts on names like TCS and the tech pack generally?
It would move sideways, Prashant, at this point of time. Largely, I think in terms of the numbers itself, the gestation in terms of how earnings will probably play out, specifically in the next few quarters, assuming a slowdown looming, a forced induced slowdown in the US market and key sectors thereof would probably weigh on in terms of how execution of numbers will happen. Secondly, I think order wins should start tapering down a tad bit. And therefore, I think the overall valuation stack up for the IT pack, we are probably equal weight at this point of time. What I really like at this juncture, Prashant, something from a momentum perspective is these gas distribution companies. Naturally, gas prices have come off quite significantly. Some bounce back expected. But volume growth expected to come back very, very sharply. If they are able to sustain at these lower levels, input costs come off, which means in the next revision, prices come off significantly, which props up volumes even higher. So I think some stocks like IGL definitely stay on a rolling lens.
Okay. All right, Mayuresh, we'll have to leave it on that note for today. Thank you very much for joining in.